There is an infinity in your actions, and once you understand this, life becomes so much more vibrant when you understand just how significant even the smallest things that you do can be, and how much that ripples into the world, and how the small acts reflect in the greater things and your ability to do greater things and achieve greater things. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about fractals and the fractal-like nature of our universe, just to kind of help create a big picture of just how far the small actions really go. If you don't know what a fractal is, it's a self-similar structure. For example, if you look here, there's a fern leaf on the screen, hopefully, and the leaf on a fern also looks like a fern. The leaf on a fern also looks like a fern. And the leaf on a fern also looks like a fern. And also a tree is an example of a fractal. So you can see there's a tree. The branch on a tree kind of looks like a little tree. Branch on a tree kind of looks like a little tree as well. But most of the time fractals are more complicated than we can really comprehend, and so they start off as essentially mathematical formulas, and they made them visual because they could only be comprehended when they were made visual. There's a famous example of a Mandelbrot fractal. As you can see, it's very complicated, but isn't it just so mesmerizing? Mandelbrot, he also believed that we live in a fractal universe. He has a quote. Let me try and remember it from the top of my head. I believe it is... I'm gonna have to Google it, and I'll put it right here. So I do believe that life all follows a geometry, and we all live to a geometry, and more conscious life forms live to a more complicated and chaotic geometry. I love Terence McKenna. I listened to a lecture of his about fractals, and he also believed that the universe is a fractal.
It is implied if we say that there's a fractal description of the rainforest, and there's a fractal description of river systems, and there's a fractal description of the coastline of the continents. What that implies is that there therefore must be a fractal in which all of those fractals are somehow subsets, and that the planet itself is some kind of fractal object.
And there is this scenario that he described.
Walking on this beach, and it was swept clean. I mean, it was virtually, there was nothing on it. And I came upon a heavy black pebble, and I noticed this heavy black pebble sitting there with a little pattern around it. It had obviously been deposited by the incoming tide, and I kept walking along this beach, and after about a while I came upon an identical black pebble, just like the first one, and then I had a stroke of insight, or the Logos tapped me on the shoulder, and I decided I would perform an experiment. And at the second black pebble, I turned and retraced my steps, and I counted my steps until I had returned to the first black pebble. It was like 723 steps. And so then I continued walking, and 730 steps later there was an identical third black pebble sitting on the beach. Well, if I had had some credulous person with me, I'm sure I could have won big money by this method. But what is happening is not mysterious at all. It's that the sea rolling into this huge bay represents a very large unresolved set of equations for chaos and turbulence.
The shape of the coast follows a fractal-like pattern. The cosmos, then the cosmic radiation, it follows a fractal-like pattern. It could go on and on and on. These patterns are just everywhere. and not even just physically, metaphysically, they're everywhere. The nature of speech is fractal-like. Even how weeks are mapped out, so week by week by week, we live Monday, it's kind of similarly, Tuesday, like a week repeats, and then each week is kind of similar, but it's also kind of abstract. That's also a thing in fractal geometry, so it repeats, but it's like slightly different. And also, I've figured that the nature of wisdom is fractal-like, and that everything we do has a symbolic value. To explain this, so you see a spiral here. A spiral is a symbol, but it's not just a shape. It holds wisdom that stays true and can be applied on many scales. That's why I say it's fractal-like. So there's the essence of that symbol, and it can be taken and experienced in different ways. And when you understand spiral wisdom in the smallest senses, you can also understand spiral wisdom in the greatest senses. Also, symbolism is the language of the subconscious mind. Information that goes beyond our comprehension is intuitively condensed. I believe that this is why symbolism is so rich in philosophical, spiritual, religious teachings as well. And also, I've started viewing ritual quite differently ever since I've understood the nature of ritual. It's so rich in symbolism. For example, one of my favorite religious rituals is in Buddhism, in Tibetan Buddhism. They create really intricate pieces of art on the floor out of sand, and then as soon as they're finished, they wipe it all away. Well, from this act of ritual, you are learning symbolic intelligence. From this small action, you gain wisdom that will reflect in your life, particularly like art practices being used, because I have a personal philosophy that the nature of consciousness is creative, and so life is a creative act. In here I talk about the relationship between creativity, conscious, and chaos, and how they're like it's gonna do this, but they are like this. They're intertwined. In fact, I even think they could be a part of the same entity. Yeah. If you want to reach a greater vision, then you must be able to master transmuting the smaller visions by refining your creative process in the small level, on a small level. So when you're sketching things out, for example, it's a different process. You're exercising different neurons, so it's more fluid. You can be more loose, more free-flowing. That's a different state to when you're refining and even just getting the vision into something physical and practicing that process. I think that is one of the best forms of wisdom that you can learn, because then you'll be able to get the vision for the greater things and be able to apply it in that way. But when you look at all rituals, you will start to see that they are all symbolic. And when you are in a meditative state of mind, in which most of them require you to be, particularly more intentionally in the Eastern cultures and philosophies, but when you are actually in a meditative state of mind, you're more receptive and open subconsciously to for this wisdom to kind of affect you. When you come into more subconscious experience, it soaks in a little bit more. But see, this idea and the idea that we live in a fractal universe, and also something that aligns with, I suppose, the theory of ritual a little bit in alchemy. And I love alchemy. I think it is so interesting and how intentional they were. They used to speak in symbols. That's mental. that's crazy. Like, do you know how much symbolism is the language of wisdom? How wise these people had to be. It does make sense because they didn't really have so many distractions, you know. Also, they were way more intentional about meditation and introspective practices. Okay, and yes, so in alchemy, there is this idea that I found that I really like. It's the microcosm and the macrocosm. And there's this famous phrase, maybe you've heard it: as above, so below, as within, so without. It refers to the microcosm, which is ourselves, and then the macrocosm, which is the cosmos. And it's this idea that what's in the cosmos reflects in us, essentially, and what's in us also reflects in the cosmos. If we are to ground this, all these big ideas, the macrocosm, the microcosm, fractal universe theory, all of this, so how do we actually apply this in our day-to-day lives? Well, I found that there was this pattern that I had that kept repeating, and it wasn't just one thing, it wasn't just another thing, but it was more a movement that had to it was something that had to shift. And once I had shifted this thing, this probably symbolic thing in my head, then everything else shifts, everything becomes easy. So for me, that looked like I would never finish things, or I found it difficult to finish things for some reason. It just never really felt natural. So for me, that looked like I would do a whole load of dishes, but for some reason I'd leave 1 or 2 cups in the sink, or I'd do projects, so I'd spend so much time on a project but I wouldn't finish it. I'd read almost the whole book, but the last few pages I'd get distracted, I'd pick up another book, I'd respond to a bunch of emails but I wouldn't respond to all the emails, etc, etc, etc. And I remember I became aware of this pattern, and I was at the sink and I was washing the dishes, and I was like, okay, if I be really intentional about making sure that today I finish the dishes, right? I do this one action, then maybe things will become easier, everything else. And I did. I finished the dishes, and then it became easier to respond to the emails. It became just felt more natural to finish projects. So it became a shift, it became a movement, and it all started with a one mindful, conscious choice. So you can really make anything an act of ritual in that sense, being super intentional about your actions and then seeing how that reflects in everything else. So even just washing the dishes reflects in all kinds of things. I hope you liked the video. If you are interested in self-mastery or want to refine your inner wisdom in any way, check out my website, perceptiveperspective.net. I've been really intentional about trying to create a hub for people that want to explore their own personal philosophy. I think that personal philosophy is something that should really be honored, and everyone has their own truth. You know, like there is no one truth fits all. And so I really encourage people to find their own in a way that feels meaningful to them. On my website, you will find a range of free blogs that I write in my free time. Also got a metaphysical shop, so some really cool stuff on there, like divination tools, dream interpretation things. Also got a occult library on there. So me and my friend Avery have teamed up, and he has got books dating back to the 1700s, like super rare occult texts. Also on there you will find details for intuitive readings and meditation 1-to-1. I really enjoy doing them. So basically they're personalized meditations. You send through like what your intentions are for the meditation. It can really be anything. It can be expanding on a feeling, like if you want to invite peace in self-love or joy, or like you want to attract anything, expand on anything. But also we can work on things like focus and memory and discipline, also how to shift you into different states of awareness. But honestly, my favorite ones are if you are feeling like you want clarity in your life, or you want to refine some kind of vision that you have, or there's an area like maybe you need to make a big decision. I can help bring you into your own mind, more deeply into your mind, and just help you really get a sense of clarity for what you want in that sense, and whether that be for life path or maybe it is for something specific. But I can help you tap into your intuition quite well. So I really hope you have enjoyed our video, and I hope to make more of these. Like the video, please hit the like button, and if you want to follow along, please hit subscribe. And yeah, I will see you again.